Hello guys, this is Avcoor with some more Archeland content. This game is pretty cool, and I'm going through the series of classes. And I would like to say that Tank is one of the classes that I myself am partial to. It's a super important class, don't get me wrong, but you can tell by my power of my Gabriel that I'm partial to this class. Like, I dump so much power into her, so. And there's a reason for that. Your tank is your carry. It's the class that carries you through content. Even both PvP and PvE content. Tanks are suitable for that. And you have to keep in mind while you're building this class that you need tanks in order to progress through the game. You could get away for a while without having shooters. And you can get away with a little bit without having rangers. But healers and tanks are the core of your team. So when you're building this class, you're going to have to dump some resources into it. And prepare to sacrifice those resources because this class is worth the effort. One of the whole stat line of a tank is simple. HP, defense, and magic defense. Attack is okay if you get it. If you don't, it's okay. It's okay. Like, Gabriel has the perfect stat line for a tank, albeit her magic defense is a little higher than her defense. And she kind of suffers for that. I myself, I'm constantly trying to find ways in order to raise that stat. Never the matter, your tank is the core of your team, and these stats matter. If you don't get concentration, it's okay. If you don't get magic attack, it's okay because they don't use that stat. So it's pretty okay. It's easy to understand what the tank does, but later on, you're going to have to use some strategy with the tank, with pseudo tanks and magic tanks, in order to take the defensive pressure off the unit. Because what I see some people do is totally crutch on the tank, and that's not a good idea because you'll get your tank killed and your first line of defense is gone. And that's always a bad thing, so never do that. So, what type of runes should you use on your tank? I actually had to change my runes since I used to have a vampire set on Gabriel, but that's not so good because even though vampire set is good for tanking at the beginning, it's not good. So the shield and the gladiator helm and the ice frost thingy are really good. I don't know the names of it because I play on the mobile, but these are some of the core runes that you should have on your tank. And every tank seems to use this weapon, so I won't speak about it much. What I will say about their equipment is you want to max it out. In fact, you want to max their equipment out before anybody else's equipment because they are heavily dependent on their equipment, more so than any other class in the game. Tanks need their equipment high and they need high numbers on their equipment. So keep that in mind that this class is a big, huge resource dump. And I'll leave it at that. So let's go to the website and we'll end it there. So here in the website, you can actually see that we actually have 4 SSR tanks, all different colors. And we have a light tank and a red tank in the SR category. So what tank color are we missing? None. We have red and Ballet. We have Gabriel in light. We have Cassie for water. We have Richard in green. And we have Kabir for dark. So this is going to be a pretty quick run through as we already have established tanks and their roles are established. So we'll go through each color and we'll end on the last 3, Gabriel, Cassie, and Richard. So we'll start with Ballet. Billet is actually a really good tank, and she's free, so that's good. That's pretty good. There's a couple of aspects of her passive that I want to talk about in response to good tanks. First of all, foremost and foremost, you actually want skills that reduce physical damage or reduce damage, period. The best passes will reduce overall damage as opposed to one type of damage. So keep that in mind that you want your tank in order, and you want your tank and their passives and their skills to reduce damage. That's one of the primary aspects that will determine a good tank from a bad tank, and their skills will determine a good tank from a bad tank. Another skill that Gabriel possesses is the ability to recover HP, and this is super important as tanks take so much damage. This actually makes her more than worthwhile. So don't sleep on Billet. I think she's one of the better tanks in the game. So next we'll talk about Kabir. And you'll notice that Kabir's PV prospects are pretty low at the end. There's a reason for that. Increased physical defense by a certain percent during battle. I want to talk about this as opposed to why Billet's better. There's a percentage of reduced physical damage that gets past debuffs, where Kabir does not get past debuffs because it's actually a stat buff, and no matter what happens, Billet will take less damage from attacks, but Kabir himself can actually be debuffed out of his own passive. So that's one of the reasons why Kabir's prospects are low later on. Increased damage dealt to targets with a debuff. That's kind of not necessary as a tank is supposed to take hits more so than deal damage. It's nice if you construct a team around Kabir, but overall it's kind of pointless. So that's another weakness in his kit. And the fact that he has a lot of attacking skill and he doesn't have the stats in order to make them work. So keep that in mind when playing Kabir is he's good in the fact that he's a dark tank, that he gets increased stats. I'll show you real quick that he gets, where is he at? He gets like increased stats. He gets S defense. He gets B attack. In fact, like his stats compared to Gabriel is kind of like meh. So I don't understand like they didn't give him the stat bonus from being dark. So that's kind of bad. So Kabir's pretty bad. I thought they would give him increased stat bonus, but they did not. So that's what you don't want your tank to do. This is Kabir is how you design a bad tank. So let's go to Richard. Richard is a PvP tank. And the thing about Richard is he can do both. He can tank and he can do DPS, but he's not exceptionally good at either. So keep that in mind that there are certain tanks that can function as DPSs, but they lose out on their ability to take hits as well as other units. Of course, he reduces physical damage taken, which is like Billet, which Kabir doesn't have, which is pretty sucky. And he has, and when he does an active attack, he can push the target 2 tiles back. This is for PvP. If someone misplaces their tank, he can knock them out of the guard range, and if he knocks them into another unit, he can stun them, which is passive, which is really good. But like I said, he does both. So he's not the best tank in the game, but he's a strong PvP tank. I want to talk about Cassie. I think Cassie constructively is one of the stronger PvP tanks in the game. And she's actually good at PvE content. The reason why I say that is the fact that she actually helps the party as well as tanks hits. Because enemies within 2 tiles have their physical attack reduced by a certain percentage. Their mobility is reduced by a certain percentage. And escorts can't be used on them. This makes her one of the strongest PvP tanks in the game right now, as she can take away guards and she can limit movement so people can't escape so easily. And it's hard to move around her. So it's easy to tank push into other teams and win. And she has strong support skills. And she has skills that reduce overall damage that she takes. So people said that Cassie's weak, and I beg to disagree. I think she's one of the best tanks in the game. Hands down. I mean, even for PvE content, I think she's really good. So last we'll talk about Gabriel. Gabriel's prospects in this game are really high, even long term, as she's a light tank. One of the things about her that shines the most is the fact that she has range counterattack. Allies within tiles take reduced magic damage. Reduced magic damage taken increases with Gabriel's HP up to a certain percent. She's an amazing PvE tank, one of the best PvE tanks in the game, as opposed to Cassie, who's actually one of the best PvP tanks. There's a couple of reasons for this. The fact that she's able to cleanse buffs, and buff and raise her own attack by her own magic defense, which is a considerably high anyway, makes her a solid tank for PvE content. PvP, she's alright. She's not as good as Richard or as Cassie. And you have to take that into consideration that not every tank can do what every other tank does. And some tanks are better at PvE content than PvP. I'll also say that Balette is better at PvE content than PvP content, as she has ways to regenerate her HP. So with that in mind, guys, hit the like, share, subscribe button. Get back to me. Let me know what you are thinking about when it comes to team construction. I'm willing to make videos on that. Have a great day and goodbye.